Do you wish you could get virtual attendees to turn their cameras on? Is engagement the number one issue on your virtual meetings? Do you want your meeting to be the most engaging virtual meeting? Well, welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. In this podcast, we'll talk to the top people around the world in virtual meetings and give you, the listener, the best ideas to host engaging virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, let's welcome your host, the author of the #1 Amazon hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen. Good morning here on the West Coast. This is John Chen with the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Geez, what are all the good things that are happening here? I just got back from a family trip to San Francisco where we celebrate a tradition called Everybody's Birthday Dinner. We celebrate all 6 or 7 or 8 of our birthdays all on one day, and we do it at an amazing restaurant. This year was a 2 Michelin star restaurant, and I can just tell you it was amazing. Watch for my YouTube channel to see some footage from that. And we hope that you get a chance to see that. All right, now coming up next today, we have an amazing interview. I love that she is here in my great state of Washington State. She's a public speaking coach for leaders and rising leaders. And let me tell you, there's a few things already. If you are listening to this and want to be an amazing podcast guest or an amazing speaker that you really need to know, let's welcome the one and only Adriana Baer. Hi, Adriana. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm great. How are you today, John?
Fantastic. I know that. So you hail from the great state, of course, of Vancouver, not the Canada, but the Washington. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Portland, Oregon, but on the cool kids side of the border.
That's all for all you Portland people out there. But
That's
we're
right.
saying that she does cross the border most likely to shop for.
It's true. And to do lots of other things.
That's great. Well, so great to get a chance to meet you. We got met on Robbie. We want to give a shout out to our good friend Robbie Samuels and his No More Boring Zoom. Every first Friday, you can come and check him out for free. And one of the things that we do is network. Imagine that. And for those who say you can't network on virtual, it's a lie.
It is a lie. I could back you up on that, John.
Very good. Well, speaking of back me up, why don't you, for all my friends who don't know who you are, take a moment to introduce who you are and what you do.
So yes, I am Adriana Baer, and I am here just outside of Portland, Oregon. And I am a public speaking coach, but I come to this work through 20 years as a theater director. So that is really where my background has been primarily. And then I moved into public speaking over the last 5 to 10 years. And now that's my full-time focus. So I really help people actually engage with their audiences, which is what we are here to talk about today.
Well, you'll appreciate the fact that I was in San Francisco and I saw the San Francisco production of A Christmas Carol.
Oh, at my old home theater, ACT. Oh,
you were there?
Yes, I have long history with that company.
Okay, so here's some really cool, amazing parts about that. One is that theater is beautiful. It's like 5 stories high. The bar in the middle, by the way, is the secret. Nobody goes to the bar during the intermission. Go to the 3rd floor and go to the bar. But I did get a chance to walk, and I was amazed that they have all this technology on the 1st row, but there's a whole nother set on the 5th floor. So there's probably, 14, 18, 20 people running that show easily.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easily. Because you've got the people backstage, the people up in the fly, and the people in the back of the house. Yeah, lots of folks pushing buttons.
And what I love, I think this is great. And in terms of speaking too, I think people don't understand, like I think in virtual speaking, we really tell people that there should quite often be 2 people. That your program will get so much better that if you have somebody like a producer or somebody who's taking care of all the tech parts, that if you want to just really focus on the people, that you can actually stop worrying about these pieces. If you work with somebody, you can create magic. And one of the pieces of magic they did is the Ghost of Christmas Future is this gigantic 3-story high puppet.
Yeah.
And that is something I like. I've never seen that in a Christmas Carol production.
Yeah,
They do things
yeah,
like they hide like the it's this big looking ghost. They come in like this, and people actually then come in from the back, right? And then the ghost opens up and reveals another collection of people. I thought that was really cool theater magic.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of the funny thing between what we're talking about today in terms of virtual meetings and what you can do live and on stage. And of course, it's an interesting thing to think about how to translate some of that revelatory magic and that feeling that you're in the same place as all these other people into two dimensions. And I think obviously you do that so beautifully, but it's really hard to figure out, especially on your own, if you don't have, like you said, if you don't have somebody working with you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you have to do a lot of tricks and a lot of prep if you want to do it on your own. And then you got to
Yeah.
practice. It's like I
Yeah.
don't think I just don't think the majority of the world can multitask to that level. Like somebody just gave me that quote, and she was going back and professing that multitasking is a lie. You think you can multitask, but you're just doing one thing well and very quickly, maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah. Or one thing badly very quickly. Lots of things mediocrely very quickly. Yes.
Okay, well, I want to give people some immediate value here too. So you also one of your pieces of your program is say how to be a great podcast guest. So now
Yeah.
what she has done, so I'm just going to share one of the things at least that I saw. She has a specific link on our website about being a guest. And then that link has everything that you need, such as a bio and a link. That's something that I asked for every single one of my guests. All I had to do was cut and paste. I didn't actually have to ask her. It was all set. So I thought that was a great
Mhm.
piece. There were some other pieces there too, like giveaways or other things that you have on there. So you made it really, really easy to be a podcast guest. Tell me some of the other things that you tell other people to be a great podcast guest. By the way, so because I'm gonna emulate this and give you credit for it. By the way, because I don't do it yet. Even though I'm a guest on a lot of shows, I haven't made a page like this. What are some of the things that you do, and what are some of the best tips that you give as a pod to tell people to be a best podcast guest?
Yes, I love it. So I also I have an online course called How to Be a Successful Podcast Guest where I break this all down, and that you can find on my website. But I'll give you the goods here too. If you want to go deeper, you can check that out. But primarily, I think there's a couple of key things here. Number one, what I think most people forget about is that we are more than just this part of our body. And for those of you listening, I'm pointing to my head. We also have an entire body, which is connected to that head, and it involves our breath and our vocal support. So, in order to be, I think, to start thinking, and this goes to not only just how to be a good podcast guest, but also how to be engaging on virtual meetings in general, is figuring out how to warm up your breath, your body, and your voice before you go onto the microphone. Because when we forget to do these things, we can have either laid back voice or lazy voice, or my least favorite, actually, and I'll do this sometimes myself when I'm not careful, is NPR voice, where you're like, hello and welcome. This is me on my recording. And suddenly everybody's like, oh, are you a real person? Or like, what? Are you Terry Gross? What's going on here? So, so I think that, one of the things is, yes, preparing in advance, things like your bio, your headshot, all that stuff to make things really easy for you and your hosts. But then also figuring out how to engage your whole self in the process of showing up. So that can be external stuff like learning how to use a microphone properly, making sure you have a headset on, looking at your background to make sure you're lit well so that people can see you. We have this interesting psychological thing, and maybe you've talked about this before, John, but if we are supposed to be able to see somebody, so if we're doing something live or visual, and we can't see their face well, it is harder to understand them. Now,
Mhm.
interestingly, when we're listening to a podcast, we're not seeing people's faces, right? But
Right.
our visual cortex part of our brain is actually turned off. So it's not expecting that, it's not looking for that. But when we think we need to see somebody's face in order to understand their language and they're backlit or they're they're at a weird angle and we can't see them, it's actually harder to understand them. And so there's a lot of these external things that you want to get skills around, but then you want to think about how are you showing up? So there's breathing exercises, there's tongue twisters. I was doing some before I signed on just
Ah.
for you today, John, to make sure that I was awake. It's 9 a.m. I've had 19 cups of coffee, but still, you need to warm up.
You are a Washingtonian. I like that.
I really, yes. And then, I think one of the things that I have on that web page, and if you're curious to take a model, you're welcome to steal it. It's just adrianabaer.com/guest. Oh, look at that. If you're watching, John has it pulled up. So one of the things that I have there too is, besides my links and other places I've been featured, are some sample questions and a little.
This was gold. I was like,
Oh,
oh, this is like a
good.
duh, right? This is really cool.
Awesome.
Here,
And
watch.
then
Watch.
I've got a little video there that just actually looks just like me right now. I'm wearing the same shirt. So you can kind of see what I'm like, a little bit about my personality. And then I have a link there that just goes to a Google Doc. So it's easy to update, that has all my bio, how to pronounce my name. My name is sometimes hard to pronounce. So I actually have a little audio file there that you can listen
Wait,
to.
wait. Now, I did miss this. So now I want to play this if you don't mind. Let's
Okay,
see
yeah, play it.
what the survey says.
Adriana Baer.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool, right?
So I think for anybody, I mean, I recommend anybody doing this, but especially if you have a name that's frequently mispronounced, it just helps, because sometimes you get a couple minutes into the podcast before you have an opportunity to say your own name. And if the
Right.
host has mispronounced your name,
So,
it just feels awkward, even if you choose not to correct them. Either way, you're kind of in trouble. Either you've not corrected them, so you feel weird, or you do correct them and then they feel weird. So you've got to do all this stuff in advance to make sure that when you show up, you can just be you and speak clearly and show up as yourself.
now let me add that tip, which is that right. The names is something in many of my programs that's in the top 10 list. And so as if you want to be a great podcast host while you're off air, while you're in the green room, while you're not on air, ask.
Yes.
And say it like saying, here's how I'm gonna guess, but I want to hear you. Can I check if this is the right pronunciation? So I think
And then
those
say
are,
it out loud a few times, right? Because our
yeah,
brains need to connect to our mouths. Even
right.
if we hear it, sometimes we have to practice it out loud.
Okay, so here, watch. I'm gonna take one of your sample questions here. So this is a
Oh,
really great idea.
oh, great. Oh, here we go. I better be ready.
You gave me the question.
I know.
Here we go.
I'm
What's
ready.
the number one most important question someone should ask when they're planning to speak in front of other people?
Who am I talking to?
Oh, that's right. And she asked.
I did.
Yes, yes. And so why is that question so important to you?
Yeah. So this question is not only important when I am speaking myself or coaching public speaking, but it's also comes from the theater, because the number one question that actors have to ask themselves, especially if they're doing a monologue, is who am I speaking to? Who is my audience for this message? And so a little bit of backstory, I used to coach full time. Well, when I wasn't directing, my income was coaching actors for auditions.
Hmm.
And in an audition, what an actor typically has to do is they have to say a monologue as if there was another character in the room,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So there's not another actor there. They have to pretend they're there. And it took me a while to really figure out what was going on here. But over and over again, my actors who were great actors would start doing terrible monologues, like really bad. And I was like, what is happening? And what I realized is the consistent factor every single time was, I would say, who are you talking to? And they would say, I don't, oh, whoops, forgot to answer that question.
Wow.
And as soon as they clarified that, the answer to that question, their work got 1,000 times better. Why? Because their language got clearer, their intention got clearer, and they were pushing their energy away from themselves out to the people that they're talking to. So today, my audience right now is you, John, and then all of the people that I am imagining are listening and watching live and listening to the podcast later. but it's very important that the way that I would speak to you right now
Yeah.
is very different from the way I might speak to a board of directors that I was approaching with,
Mm.
fiscal quarter four's budget review, right?
Right.
The way that I'm talking to you is going to be very different from the way that I'm talking to, as I often do, a room full of college students who are just about to embark on their career versus the people I tend to coach, which are at a certain level of their career already. So your message might actually be the same every single time, but the audience that you're speaking to is going to dictate the how you're communicating that message and even some of the language that you use. Because I might use cool kids language when I'm talking to a bunch of college students, or what I think is cool, which might be a little outdated. But I'm not going to use that same language when I'm talking to a VC
Sure.
panel to get
Sure.
some investment, right? So you've got to figure out who you're speaking to, or your message is going to be muddy and generalized, and
Here's the
then it equals boring.
Here's the best part. I want to let you know we know one person you're speaking to. It's Teresa Savadogo, who is in Mexico. Do you know Teresa?
No, but hello.
Teresa is an NSA member who also lives part time or sometimes used to live in Washington State and is currently in Mexico. And it has been a good friend, connected me with a lot of other people here in the area. So that's who you're speaking to today. She is also on the speaking side. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about virtual. So,
Yeah.
how did your theater experience or your coaching experience change in the last 3 years?
Well, my theater experience, I'll tell you, I was directing professionally full time in the American Regional Theater all over the country, and that just ground to a screeching halt because
Right.
theater is, by definition, bunches of people in rooms together. So, and I was teaching at a university and coaching exclusively in person. So, of course, the easiest thing to do was to move that coaching and teaching online, which I did. The theater thing's been interesting. A lot of people actually decided to try to make theater on Zoom or
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Um, I did not go there. For me, now some people did it very successfully, and actually, this is related to your question, so it sounds tangential, but I think it's not.
I trust you.
Um, Thanks. So what I noticed was happening was these people who tried to just do theater on a screen failed.
Hmm.
People who said, what is the new art form here that I can create inside of this frame that is different from movies, right? What is the live event inside of this frame? And what is the new model? Those people made some really interesting stuff.
Mm.
And so when I think we're talking about virtual meetings, and you're now forever going to be my example of this, of like finding new models and thinking outside the box and what is it really? I think the intention here is not to try to make your virtual meeting just a filmed version of your actual in-person meeting, but a different kind of experience, and recognize that they require different things. And as a speaker, it requires a different kind of energy to be in this, to be primarily working with my face as the method of communication, right? Because when I'm on stage, I have my whole body. I can move to make a point. I could gesture really large. When I'm, if I'm using a slides and I'm standing in front of the screen, that's a very different relationship than when I'm sharing my screen and I'm like, on this slide, you'll see blah, 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 right? So again, there comes to that question of what is your medium? Are you,
Yeah.
you know, you're a visual artist? Are you a painter? Are you a sculptor? Are you a photographer? Like, what is the medium, the media that you have to work with? And thinking about how best to use that. But I'm more on the Robbie Samuels side of things. Like, I'm pretty low tech.
Yeah.
But I still think that you can do engaging virtual presentations and speeches by honing in on some of these skills that we talked about before, like using your mouth more, using your face, using
Your
your,
voice.
your voice.
Voice, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my friends runs Virtual Sapiens. They have a thing called Sidekick, and it helps with you use AI to help with your virtual presence. And
Mm,
they do research, and they set out a research in for the beginning of 2023. They said the number one thing that people could do was use vary their voice tone and their vocal tone, and
yep.
a lot of people are not thinking about, when can I use my voice? When can I talk faster, slower,
Correct.
right? Sometimes using if you have the right microphone, you can do some of these things, and that people don't use that. They get into that groove, that monotone groove, and they get into it.
Hmm.
You talked about new models, and that Bob Behan, he's a VP at Microsoft of Virtual Experiences, says you got to stop thinking theatrically and you got to start thinking cinematically,
Yeah.
right? And that you can do all these things with it. Funny, I don't know if did you ever see the Father of the Bride continuation during the pandemic?
No.
So, Father of the Bride, the original cast got together during the pandemic and made an episode that was like a continuation of Father of the Bride 1, 2, and 3. It was
Oh my
like a
gosh.
four, right? And they shot it on purposely on Zoom, right? For that. And I think that was kind of successful in that way. And they did it, I think, as a fundraiser for the out of work actors was one of the reasons,
Oh you
you know.
that's nice.
And so right now I'm actually trying out this new idea because I ran through one part, which is like I ran all the tech. I have so much tech over here, and I'm the first person to use tech to get some engagement. And then I got blown away by Elizabeth Gilbert, who gave one of the best keynotes, and she used no tech
Nothing.
at all,
She uses
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
Right? It's just storytelling, authenticity,
That's right.
vulnerability for those who want the shortcut to the three. See, there's eight, by the way, that we identified. But now I'm driving down a new lane, and the new lane looks like this, which you saw at Robbie's piece, which is what can you do if you take the best of both worlds in engagement?
Yeah.
And so now you can do things like this. So cinematically, you can be anywhere in the world. So like in this case, right, for those who can't see, I'm at a desk and I have Adriana's website up here on a screen, and it's like it looks like I'm in like some great theater, and I'm not. But visually, you can do that. And then adding the second parts, which you also saw during Robbie's part, is that we use the best engagement techniques, which is like
Hmm.
let the audience talk half of the time.
Yes.
And I think through the combination of those things is what I'm experimenting into 2024 for the next level of engagement. What do you see as the next level, or what has to happen for you for a virtual meeting to really be engaging for you?
For me, I honestly think the very first thing is the most analog answer I can possibly give you, which is that the person who is speaking feels clear and confident, that they can use their voice, that they can, as you said with Elizabeth Gilbert, they can show up vulnerably and authentically. That is so, so, so important. Nothing is more distracting to me than somebody who is super nervous
Yeah.
or, yeah, just talking at you instead of really feeling grounded and connected and confident. And I am somebody who, interestingly enough, maybe this is because I'm a director and I tend to be the person who's watching and critiquing as opposed to the person who's doing. But man, if I'm in person, I am not that person who's sitting in the front row hoping you'll drag me up on stage. I don't want to engage with you.
Your
And
director, you're
same,
behind the scenes. You rather,
yeah, I'm behind the scenes. So I generally sit in the way back and I'm like, but I'm very present when I'm there. I'm not checked out at all. I'm just wanting to have time and space to observe and process. So I am the kind of person I'm happy to listen to an engaging person talk. That's why I listen to podcasts and have my own. And the, storytelling is ancient. It's ancient. We didn't need a million things thousands of years ago to be engaged with the story. What we needed was a good storyteller. So I do feel like the very first thing we've got to focus on is that stuff. And I think that once you have that foundation, then adding everything that you're talking about, John, really seals the deal. But I think it's really it's a trap right now that there's so many extra AI tools and all this stuff that if you're not if you're not an expert in that, if that's not your comfort zone,
Right.
you might have 2 hours to prepare for something and you spend 1 hour and 58 minutes trying to do this cool tech thing and 2 minutes thinking about who you are and where you are in space. And I would almost rather, I would almost rather go back to like, let's get real here, people.
Well,
Like
and I tell speakers all the time, or like, and about engaging programs, that authenticity trumps perfection almost every single day of the week.
100%.
You can
Always.
make tons of mistakes, right? But if you can really portray that this is you,
Yeah.
right? You know, those mistakes I'll forgive. In fact, they might become part of the bit. They might
Yeah.
become part of that person's character if they do it in a really, again, authentic way.
So here's the hack that everybody is always shocked that I say.
Ooh.
I do not think you should try to memorize a script.
Oh yeah. Oh,
You know this, right? But I think so many people who are doing speeches, presentations, and virtual events think that what they should do is memorize a script or read from their script. It's deadly.
it is.
And I think the memorizing thing is even more important. This is going to sound crazy given my background. I think not memorizing is even more important when you're in person
Yeah.
because you've got to be able to listen and respond to the people who are actually there. And too often we get so stuck in our script that if one thing, like if catering drops a tray of coffee cups in the back of the room and you're suddenly like, oh, I don't know where I am, it's really hard to get back on track. Or if somebody laughs or doesn't laugh where you think they're going to, you get thrown off. Instead, if you have key points and you're able to say, okay, here's my point. I know I need to get to point B, point C, and point D, but within that is flexibility. So I always say that within structure, there is freedom. And I think that's really important, both for podcast guest experiences, even as a host, and for any kind of virtual meeting.
What I've told people and what's worked for me personally is that the writing out of a script and a speech is really useful. There's can be use, especially if that's you're that kind of
For
personality,
sure.
right? And then rehearsing that. And then there's kind of like this part, what I tell people is then like crumple it up, throw it away before you get on stage.
Yes.
You need a crib sheet, then right. If you need a crib sheet, write out your 3 or 4 bullet points or
Yeah.
whatever. But the practice I find helps you clarify, like, so you're not wandering on stage, right?
Right.
And that it gives you a fallback. And the best part about throwing it away then makes you deliver it from your heart and not your head. And that is so, I
Mm.
think that part is so important. You
Yeah.
really know the difference when someone is like, I'm teleprompting now and I'm going to tell you how important this is to my life. You're going to feel me, right? Versus somebody who says, do this, right? Throw that script away.
Yeah.
Deliver it from your heart. If you really want to, I mean, and I think that's what we want from a lot of our speakers is to move us, to
Yeah.
emotionally involve us, even if it's a roller coaster, right? It's a tough story, right? It can be hard. In fact, that's actually a good thing because a lot of those things naturally draw people in going, I want to know what happened next.
So there's a study, and maybe you've heard this study from Dr. Paul Zaks, who studied how we respond to stories with a dramatic arc.
Ooh, I didn't know that. No, I haven't
Yeah,
seen.
so this is one of my favorite things. So when people listen to a story that has a clear turning point, right? So a clear dramatic arc,
Yeah,
something happens
yeah,
that changes the people in the story. They have an oxytocin response. And oxytocin is the connection chemical, right?
right.
So what happens is the audience feels an empathetic connection with the storyteller. You can have the same quote unquote set of facts and deliver it as a set of facts, and the audience will not have that connection experience with the storyteller.
Right.
And so if you want to have your audience feel connected to you and your message, there are some nerdy literary structure tools that we can work on that help you do that. First I was here, then something happened, then a challenging time occurred, then a turning point, then I assimilated that, and now I'm here, right? That's the like baseline dramatic structure.
Yeah.
and it will work to connect your audience with you. It's pretty cool.
I'm coaching another speaker right now, and I'm really trying to get him to work on what I call cataloging stories, right? Like this is how I end up living my life. It's like something can happen. It could be anything, like something that happened in an airport or whatever. But if you get it, one, it's a good story, and two, it can be used for a point, right? One is I'll catalog it and like put it in my mental file for these stories, and then and then see if I could catalog it into like what's that story about? Like, here's a short one, which was it was around creativity and innovation. I was on a flight, and this woman next to me was trying to fix a toy for her daughter to entertain her during this long flight, but she couldn't do it because it was post 9/11. She didn't have a screwdriver to like turn on a light. It's one of those lights that goes down, so she can
Uh-huh.
draw something. And so I'm looking at a corner of my eye for like 20 minutes, right? Because I'm just trying to read email. And finally, close my laptop and I go, "Are you a Virgo?" She goes, "Oh my God, why? How did you know?" And I go, "Because I'm a Virgo too, and I'm the only person I know that would spend 20 minutes still trying to do this. I would have gave up. Everyone else gives up, right?"
I also am a Virgo, and I was
Yes.
listening to that story being like, well, yeah, of course she's doing
I come up there and
that.
it's, I teach team building, right? And one of the beliefs that
Oh,
I have
that's so
is
funny.
everything that you need is within you now, right? That's a belief.
Mm,
And
hmm.
and so I said, I don't know how I'm going to solve this, but this is the belief. And so I go around and I said, again, I don't know exactly how I'm going to solve this, but all I have is the belief that I can solve this. She goes, okay,
Mm,
great, let's do this. So I come around and I try some stuff and it doesn't work. And eventually I get to a metal pen, right? It's a pen with a metal clip. And I
okay.
lift the pen and the top of the pen pops off and it gives me a metal edge corner,
Hmm.
which is a screwdriver, right? So I take that corner of that, and now I can get the screw out and take that little plastic tab out, and now the light comes on. Ah, right, the light comes on. Her daughter's happy. She goes, "That is so amazing. Can you do me a favor? My husband and I, because he was sitting in a seat over there, he goes, would like to buy you a drink. What do you want?"
Nice.
A screwdriver. So see what I'm trying to tell people in that story, right? Is look for the things that happen with that this is what Elizabeth Gilbert said. She's turned like her stories are like finely turned stones, that because she's
Mm,
told the story 10,000 times,
yeah.
sometimes she doesn't need people she doesn't need to see people because she knows they're laughing. Like she can envision them laughing at the right point, but
Mm,
only because she's turned the stone 10,000 times. And
right.
screwdriver, I like that, like a punchline
I
screwdriver,
love that you had a punchline. That's so
universally
funny.
funny.
It is. It is. That's awesome.
Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
glad you fixed her thing.
Yeah, right. She was so happy too. She was like, that when you can help somebody relieve all that stress, that's one of my things in life. Okay, speaking of things in life, let's talk about this. Whatever your story arc is, right? We've gotten to this part, and I've been telling people too that, like, especially like the youth of today, have gone through a time that is like landmark, right?
Mm,
This COVID coronavirus thing will sit in people's histories, especially the youth, and like may alter their course forever.
yes.
It's altered
Yes.
all of ours forever. And so my question to you is this: is what do you see in the future, or better yet, you're a director, right? This might fit you better. What's your wish, like 5 or 10 years into the future, regarding virtual and hybrid and whatever?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do a brave thing because your title of your podcast is literally engaging virtual meetings. But I will say that my heart can't wait to be back in rooms with people comfortably and joyfully frequently again. So my personal wish is to have those spaces feel free again. Because I think even now when we're in those spaces, there's still trepidation, right? We're still um, a little bit nervous, a little bit uncomfortable, trying to understand how these things all go together.
That's a good point, because like that's an underlying like we do a lot of DEI work, and right, we're trying to tell people, that's sometimes when you're a person of color, this underlining low tone that's going around.
Mm,
Now everybody's feeling it, because this is great because you're articulating something that I've probably been feeling, but I haven't
mm,
really articulated. So thank you for that.
yeah, thank you. So, but I do think I think that is time, right? We still need some more time. But one of the things I think that we have really learned in this time, from a DEI perspective, is that we can create opportunities for people that suit those people and what they need.
Mm,
Um, and we have a lot more tools now to do that.
yeah.
Some people actually need to not be in large rooms of other people. Some people need to be able to read text or hear things in a different tempo. We're thinking a lot more about accessibility on websites. And I think all of that is really important work. And I'm really curious about the hybrid experience. What can we do to allow the people who are not there in person to have their own unique and full experience, as you talk about, John? So, but I also hope that the engaging virtual meetings of the future will have more people who are really choosing to become skilled speakers in this way,
Mm.
without sounding like they're a newscaster or being afraid to be a little bit presentational, and so therefore being super cash, laid back, and mumbly, and they're not actually successful. So there's a really fine line there, but I think it's an incredibly important and valuable skill
Mm.
to learn.
Mm. Beautiful. If someone like Teresa or my good friend C.A. Hurst, who are listening here today, only you could remember one thing from your program today, what would be that one thing?
Ground your feet. Remember that you have a body, and then take up as much energetic or real space as you can.
Beautiful. That comes from my in-person speaking, which is one of the things that my coaches have taught me is to fill the space.
Yes.
Like energetic feel. Like if you speak in a big theater, that's why I go in early and I'll look at there and I'll try and figure out how do I fill this space. So, if it's
Yes.
smaller, and it's kind of like on the Yoda side, right? It's the same amount of energy. It's not hard, but it's different.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
really different. That is something I coach on all the time too, John. I think
and
that filling the space really important.
good idea about adapting the craft and what is the new model that they require different things. So that just that
Mm,
acknowledgement really stuck with her. So thank you
thank
for
you.
Cool. So make sure and click her link. You can find out more about her. And I'm excited that you're here in the state of Washington. I look forward to us bumping into each other, whether virtually or in person sometime soon.
Me too. Thank you, John.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. We're in the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with the one and only Adriana Baer. You got to go follow this website. And if you do nothing, right, follow one of the tips on the page. If you want to be a podcast guest, right, create a page on your website and just make it really easy for people. That was like a duh. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not doing it. But hopefully by my next podcast, I am doing it. And the other thing I'm going to do too, based on what she said, is that I'm going to update my part and I'm going to tell people who is the audience. People in the audience are like Teresa here, CA Hurst. These are people who are passionate around engaging virtual meetings. They are people who create conferences, summit master classes. Many of them are presenters themselves. Many of them are trainers. And we're all looking like, how can we make this more engaging? Speaking of making it more engaging, make sure and subscribe, share, like, and comment if you are watching on any of the social media parts. You can actually subscribe to this podcast right here at engagingvirtualmeetings.online. There are over 13 locations where you can subscribe to this podcast. Did you know the number one location for the podcast is still Apple Podcast, followed closely by Spotify? Speaking of which, if you want to see the latest in in hybrid engagement, the Engaging Conference, this will be my 5th year, and this year is the year that I'm going hybrid, and we are going to innovate and find 6 to 7 of the top engaging hybrid speakers. You can register, you can grab a free ticket or become one of our VRPs, or for the first time ever, you can meet with us in person here in Seattle, Washington. So make sure and check that out as the details come along October 1st through the 3rd, right here in Seattle, Washington. And if you want to be like the Adriana Baer and be our next guest, all you got to go here is go to this link, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you could be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Thank you so much. Happy holidays and happy new year. Can't wait to see what 2024 brings us. Until then, we'll see you next time. This is John Chen, the author of the Amazon #1 hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. I personally want to say thank you for listening to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. It is my passion to help you eliminate bad virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with all of the latest ideas. Hey, I want to meet you. If you want to talk about a virtual meeting challenge, or if you want to be the next guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. That's engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, MEET, and find your best time to meet up. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you online.